on the pressure embedded within university where private sector metaphors are used to quantify knowledge. For example, the number of outputs you have this year. Mm-hmm. It's August now. I think many academics here are panicking. Performance, IPMS are coming very soon. You are scared how many articles are coming out. You are looking at the last one you dipped in, no response. So also, what you are going to see is that some authors ground their chapters in existing theory while others are theorizing from their own embodied experiences. And to frame this book, we invoke Walter Mignon, deliberately so, especially the concept of epistemic disobedience, which we found particularly relevant and useful. And for that, he argues that the decolonial thinking affirmed the epistemic right of the racially devalued, and he proposes a radical departure by noting that knowledge should be reframed also to focus on the knower. And that's what we did with this book. So the decolonial option suggests that we should privilege lives over disciplines, and this is exactly what we attempted to do. And we also wanted to challenge the notions that frame knowledge as only legitimate when others share our stories on our behalf. So we wanted to own these stories. For me, as I conclude, my own chapter, which is on page 157, chapter 11, is entitled The Limits of Being and Knowledge. And basically this chapter, it focuses on how narrow conceptions of being and knowledge is a big problem in the university for me. As I enter the spaces, who is human in that space is a big problem for me. What is knowledge? These are the two questions that as I leave this space, they bother me each and every day. And I say this, I argue so because definitely since my university years, as a first-year student, and I'm an alumni of 3 universities in this country, and also 1 university in the UK, I have come to the conclusion that we lack a proper model of humanity in the world, generally. And I'm just using these 2 countries, South Africa, maybe, and the UK. I've not been to many spaces where I can say I see how humans are treated. And hence, up to this day, after the universities in the world have produced trillions and trillions of books, we still struggle to understand humanity. What is human? And for me, I say, unless we reimagine new spaces of knowledge production, where various knowledge systems of the world can converge to form universal knowledge, for me, this thing called university is not there. It's not there for me, still not university. What we call the university today, if we continue like this, it will remain a space of contestation. If we continue like this, the peace and the harmony, because some of us, we are in these spaces to disturb peace. The peace and the harmony that you wish to see, it will not happen if we don't move and change and understand what it means to be human and how do we do humanity. My chapter basically touches on the burden I carry as a Black South African woman in the academy, using my own experiences. One, my accent is a problem. Mm-hmm. It's a very big problem. This is the problem that someone left as for her domestic worker at work. And then he's coming to these spaces of peace to find it from me. So this is a big problem, my accent. And I know that many people are not able to get even positions because of accent. Yeah. The accent is not fitting, the spaces where these things are. And this is a big problem for me. It was a problem here, it was a problem in the UK. It's all the same. I got questioned, when you ask a question, you raise a question in a seminar, where are you from? Even up to today, I hate this question, where are you from? So I think, and my foreignness, because I've experienced to be a foreigner in the UK. And for me, this foreignness changes if I'm in South Africa, where I think is home, and then I'm this lazy South Africans who is entitled. They don't want to, and the foreigners are the better. So I'm struggling. I go to the UK, then I find that as a foreigner, in comparison to local British blacks, I'm told, you people work hard. We like you. You people from Africa, unlike these lazy Caribbeans here. And so I don't know what foreigners mean as well. Knowledge production as well is a problem, where the concept of objectivity, neutrality, universality, somehow were used to conceal the fact that I needed to brighten my ideas with some white theorists. So you are very narrow, Edith. You have to think universal, and you have to think objective. This PhD is going to take you very long.
Yeah.
You have to think in particular ways. So but I am quoting people, but these people, no, these ones are very provincialized. Don't really even think about it. Think universally. And then I slot in Marx, you slot in Durkheim. Oh, perfect, Edith. Now you are coming. So it took me a while. I didn't understand that all I needed was to borrow some white theorist and whoop, into the thing. I legitimize. Because this white one is going to legitimize my knowledge. Yeah. So there's many things that I can say. Let me stop here. Thank you very much.
Musical chair.
I forgot.
No, just sit here. Just sit here. Good evening, everybody. I am going to pause and just give you a taste of what is in chapter 4, a chapter that I wrote titled Intellectual and Emotional Toxicity, where a cure does not appear to be imminent. Following what seemed like an exceptionally long, over 2 years, period of investigations into a formal grievance around discrimination, harassment, and intentional malice against me by a senior member of staff, and the reason I had to step down as HOD of the discipline, I had lodged a complaint against a white professor in the university. I received an email from the Industrial Relations Office indicating that the powers that be had decided that my grievance be removed from the table, that all parties involved must recommit to the jobs that they were hired to do, and that failure to do so would result in disciplinary steps being taken. As the aggrieved party, I was astonished, confused, and intensely angered by this new development in my grievance process. This was especially infuriating because at the last meeting with the powers that be, I had been assured that an investigation would be conducted into my grievance. It was at this meeting where I was told, the investigation will reveal one of three things. The grievance is valid, the grievance is not valid, or the grievance is valid but not substantive enough to warrant any action. I was therefore expecting communication along those lines, and this communication indicating that the matter had been closed took me by total surprise and left me baffled. I immediately requested a meeting for clarification, and it was at this meeting where these words, which have played in my mind every day since then, were uttered to me. I have made my decision, open quotes, I have made my decision to close this matter. This matter is now closed. If you are not happy with this decision, you really have three choices. you accept my decision, and that means accept the situation and live with it, or you take us to court, or you resign. Bear in mind that this occurred at the very same time I applied for promotion, a time when my application was under review. This is just one of the life-defining moments that I share in the book, which prompted me to agree to be a part of this project, of this book project. One of my favorite proverbs, African proverbs, is one that says, "Until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter." This is the proverb that motivated me to jump at the opportunity to be a part of this Black academics lived experience archiving project, because we saw it as that. We saw it as an archiving project. When Professor Grace Kuno invited me, I jumped at the opportunity because this project offered me an opportunity, and all of us really, an opportunity to tell our stories and tell our stories ourselves, so that we were able to allow our stories to glorify us and not the hunter. So when we conceived of this project, we were very critical and critically conscious of wanting to create a history-making process. This, we believed, would enable us to have a narrative record that at a certain time in history, this group of 12 academics existed. They lived in this space. They had experiences in this space, and experiences that shaped what they taught, that shaped what they researched, that shaped what they wrote. Beyond our existence, we wanted to share that we have experiences, we have feelings, we have thoughts, and that these warrant a historical record. And so that is what got me to be involved in the book. Faced with the tension of our bold undertaking and the almost paralyzing fear of exposure, because this is a very exposing experience, and particularly because most of us are still living in those spaces. So this is not something that's happened in its past. It's continuing. So we were faced with this, and we realized that these are actually lived narratives that continue to live, and that we're still experiencing. And so we decided as a group to facilitate a workshop where we created what we called vulnerable safe spaces, where we were able to share openly what we were experiencing and get support from each other. And that is how the book was conceived. So the process of completing this project was in itself, for us, a lived experience as editors of the book and as chapter contributors. And this lived experience saw us engage with very, very difficult and challenging questions. I've just pulled out a few of those that I want you to think about, which we try to capture in the book, in the various chapters. One of the big questions or challenges that we were confronted with was, what does it mean to be Black? What does it mean to be Black in this space? The concept of Blackness, we grappled with that. Another challenge or question that we grappled with, what does it mean to be included? Because when we sent out the abstract call for chapters, we said, we want you to write about whether you feel included or feelings of belonging, and we had to grapple with that. What does it mean to be included or excluded? And what seems to be the influencing factors around this within the academy? And things that came up were things like economic greed, knowledge hegemony, power. Those things seem to determine whether you feel included or excluded. Another question that we grappled with, what is merit? How is this defined in the academy, and how is it used? And we know that merit is used around competition for resources. We know it's used in the instrumentalization of people. We know this, we're aware of it. Another challenge was the infantilization of Blacks in the academy, the question of juniorization. We live this. You have colleagues that were heads of departments without a PhD, that were former students in the department. As soon as a black person has the opportunity to become the HOD, the very same people that were heads without PhDs, who were former students, raise these questions suddenly as a problem. How is she going to be a HOD when she's a former student in the department? And mind you, at this point in time, I have a PhD, they didn't. But it's a challenge. We grappled with the question of blacks in general, but then we found ourselves talking about actually the experience of black women in particular is very different. Black women bring discomfort to these spaces. They bring discomfort in these spaces. I have an experience which I'll never forget. As an HOD, I walk in to a meeting. I'm supposed to be chairing a meeting. We have these international visitors in the department. I come in, I greet everybody. I'm very polite, I'm friendly, I'm smiling, I'm everything. I'm sitting, and one of the visitors says to me, I'll have my coffee with. Right? So I play along because hospitality, because these people are in my space, they're in my home. So I say, okay, I'm gonna make the coffee and what have you. So I'm about to say, okay, we're gonna start now. Another one pipes up and says, so when is the HOD coming? Right? So these are the very different challenges of black women, because when you see me, you're seeing a maid, you're seeing a help, you're seeing an assistant. You do not see me in any other way. So we grappled with that. Black women in the academy were supposed to just consume knowledge. They were not supposed to be co-constitutors in the process of knowledge production. This question was particularly important in this book project because the majority of the contributors were women, were black women. And these people provide contemporary analysis of the state of blackness in South African university using first-hand experiences. The question of biographies Edith has spoken about, we chose it deliberately. And because we were a large group of black women, we were also very worried about the fact that they're going to say we're lying. Right? You're fabricating. This can't be true. So all of that we had to grapple with that. So those are the challenges that we grappled with when we were planning this book. So I'm gonna pause here. Some of the things will come up in the discussion. The most important thing for us when we were writing this book was that we wanted those who walk with us and those who follow know that we were here. We want them to know that we were here. That's all.
Good evening, colleagues. So by way of starting, I want to use Maldonado Torres' concept of saluting the ancestors. That when we come to spaces like these, and especially when we're engaging in a topic of decoloniality, it's very important that we pause and we think about saluting people who were here before us. When you think about Port Elizabeth, 100 years ago, 350 years ago, 400 years ago, who were the inhabitants of this land? So in my own life, when I come to a room like this, I'm very much aware of the people that came before me. So I come from a generation of tenant farm laborers after the 1913 displacement of the Land Act. So I come into this space acknowledging the sacrifices that my parents had to make living on a farm. My parents made a hard decision of leaving that farm to move to a nearby township where as children we will get an education, because education was very important in my family. So my encounter with learning began on a floor of a classroom in a township called Everton, an area called Small Farm. And my family was illegal in that area because we did not possess a permit, which was a document that allowed you to be. And my brothers and sisters also were not afforded an opportunity to start school because there was a law or a clause that for you to be accepted in any school, your parents need to produce a document, a pass for adults in the family, and a permit that ensured that you belong to the space. So this is just to demonstrate how a life of a black family was regulated in apartheid South Africa. So I'm very much aware that also as a woman, I come also from a generation of domestic workers. So my great-great-great-grandmothers came to cities like Johannesburg as domestic workers, and here I am in this generation coming to the space as someone that produces knowledge, as a lecturer in an academic institution. So going back to my contribution in this book, the title of my piece is Sitting on One Bum, okay? So this is a deep expression that we use to demonstrate a situation where someone is in a place where they're not welcomed. It symbolizes an element of foreignness, you know, and a space where it's very clear that you do not belong. And this stemmed really from the experience of when I joined Wits in 2007. I really didn't feel that I belong, and this was made very clear. For me, Wits was a space marked by whiteness. From the names of the buildings, from the pictures on the walls, you know, it was very clear that someone like me did not belong in this space. But also what my struggle in those first 7 years was also around making progress with my probation targets. I'm not sure how it works in this institution, but in my institution you are given 3 years, and in these 3 years you are given probation targets, and these targets are they're imposed on you. You know, you must publish 2 articles, be collecting data in 3 years, otherwise you will not be confirmed. So I struggle with that because also at the time I decided to exercise my reproductive rights. I decided to be a mother, and it was important for me to be a mother and to also be in an academic space, and it was a serious challenge. So I talk about the contradictions, that while I felt like I didn't belong in the broader academic space, a place where I belonged was in a classroom. When I engaged with students, when I was teaching, when I was supervising field practice, I really felt like I belonged, because also the students that I taught were people that could relate to me, people that saw it as a powerful thing to see a black person as someone who is producing knowledge. And so also in the piece I draw the link around feeling that you do not belong. So feeling that I don't belong in a white space, I also link that to my experience as a child. So my mother was a domestic worker. So during the state of emergency, I lived through 2 states of emergencies as a child during the civic uprising in Davao. So there was a time where my mother had to work and live on the employer's premises. So as a child, during school holidays, I would be allowed to go to that space. But I was not allowed to be there. So I will be locked in a room in my mother's quarters, and she will come and she will bring me food, and only in the dark I'll be allowed to leave the space. So my struggle of belonging and of feeling that I don't belong into this white space started when I was a child, And now I'm an academic staff member at this institution. I have the qualification and I still don't belong, you know. And so later in the chapter, I talk about a shift that happened when I attended a training on race, social justice, and transformation. And I realized that I am in this space because I am needed in this space. And I'm in this space not because there are individuals who have decided, but I am here because of the higher power, you know, and I include the element of spirituality there, that I am in this space because I was meant to be in this space, and I have something significant to contribute. And from where I am now, I've taken back that power, and I'm sitting firmly with 2 bumps on the chair, and I feel that I belong. I will stop there.
Okay, colleagues, that's over to you now. Let's take 3 to 5 questions, comment. If it's a comment, please keep it a bit shorter so we can get through another round. And I'm going to ask the panelists just to make a note of the questions that are relevant for you. All right. And I'm going to ask people as they speak to put on the mic and then to say who they are for the record. So if we are doing a tape of the event. I see 2 hands next to each other over here. I'm going to take these 2, that one over there, and then I'll come back to the hands back. Okay, we've got 4. All men at this stage.
My name is Prof. Macho. I've been a lecturer for 12 years and I left, went to corporate. I've now come back as a consultant, not in a lecturer capacity. I was interested there that I think I had from Motlalepule, I think around now sitting on 2 bumps. Can you please just explain how you managed to do that? Because I find it is still very hard to sit on 2 bumps, you still have to sit on the 1 bump.
Number 1, 2.
Can you hear me? Good evening. Thank you very much, the 3 of you. Fantastic. I just wanted to get your opinion in terms of the plight that you've experienced as women of colour, particularly as black women. Do you feel that you've been supported in that plight by men of colour? Because historically, I feel like the burden of and the labour of equality and diversity in race work has been lifted by women, and then men come in for champagne moments.
Hi.
Thank you very much. My name is Satish Kumar. I'm from Queen's University in Belfast. At the end of all the 3 speakers, I felt a sense of hope. I feel a tremendous sense of hope hearing your voices and your sense of what you have been able to achieve. My question to all 3 of you to consider and reflect on the idea of performance. How does performance play a role in occupying and reclaiming the spaces that have been antagonistic to you?
And we have a 4th person over here.
Good evening. My name is John. I'm a visitor. Thank you very much for your presentations, and I'm looking forward to consuming the contents in the book. My question, it was triggered by Dr. Paswana when you mentioned something about accent and how it tends to be questioned whether within the academic space. But I want to just ask if you could elaborate. The question of accent, does it get raised via the colleagues, or does it also come through the students? And of course, what is because I took a class some few months ago, and after having gone through the class, the evaluation forms came through. And of course, there's always that section where students can write besides the recorded responses. And then there was a comment that said the lecturer is boring, he must go for speech therapy.